Welcome to our Tuesday at 10 Zoom meeting. And we're going to start out just giving some updates from NAR. I don't know if you saw it or not, but there was a video that was put out by the interim CEO concerning the lawsuits that have been filed. And as you're all aware, there's been multiple additional lawsuits filed in other states. Nothing in Indiana yet. And so, just so that you're aware, that was sent out in their communication this morning from Realtor Magazine. You should all get an email. Usually on a daily basis, I get mine. Featuring information that comes from Realtor Magazine, and this had that video in there, so you could click on it and watch the video. I would encourage you to do that. Watch it for yourself and see what's going on with the National Association of Realtors and what they're doing to try to support us as real estate agents. And so. We had some I just finished my CE for the year. By the way, you have to have 12 hours of CE by, I think it's June 30. So if you haven't already got your CE, you need to put that on your calendar to get your 12 hours before your license renewal time. At any rate, I just went through my 12 hours of CE Thursday and Friday of last week with Jay Rose. I like Jay because he's really pretty interesting, got some pretty good information. So at any rate, next, MyBor. Talk a little bit about MyBor. I'm going to share my screen with you here. You should be looking at the infographic from MyBor on your screen, and it shows some statistics about what's going on. And so I just want to kind of review some of those things with you. We had an increase in median sale price of 1.9% to 280,000, and that was about a 0.4% month over month increase from December. So median sales price in January was 280. Now this is for the whole MyBor market area. So there's individual stats that you can get for Hamilton County, or you can even drill down to the cities, and those numbers are going to be different for every market. So this just gives you kind of an overall picture of what's going on in the MyBor service area. We had a decrease in closed sales of 2.4% based on year to year. So January a year ago, we had more closed sales than we did January this year. And interestingly, that was also month over month, 23% down from December. So surprising that January was not a better month than December. And so be that as it may, that's not necessarily good news that closings are down. And then new listings decreased 2.7% to 2,052 listings currently. And in January 2024, it only showed a 0.4% increase month over month from the previous month, and just about every area within MyBor saw an increase in sales price. So Good news is prices are going up. So if you own real estate, you're building equity in your real estate. Bad news is if you're not in the real estate market, trying to get into the real estate market is becoming increasingly more expensive for first-time home buyers. And that's true with interest rates as well. Although William, what are they running right now? About they say 6.63. What are you seeing, William?
I'm not seeing anything that low yet, unless if I don't know what the APR would be. If we're not talking about any discount points, I'm
Yeah,
not I'm in the close to 7%.
yeah, okay. Um, this is what they reported as an average rate for the week ending February 1. So that goes back to January, actually. So there's probably been a tick up in interest rates. And the Fed seem to be content right now to leave interest rates alone as far as what they're doing. Uh, but they also indicated that they probably wouldn't be lowering them anywhere near uh, soon either. So, at any rate, there's some information for you. Inventory still remains tight, and I think we're going to see, that continue throughout the year of 2024. I think inventory is going to be tight, which means that we're going to need to be creative in running our businesses in terms of getting new listings, as well as finding properties for our buyers. And so I think that we'll probably need to do more of the mailings to neighborhoods that buyers want to be in to see if we could scare up a listing or a property for sale. And that may help us get a listing as well. So um, this year's going to call for creativity and and a lot of marketing savvy to uh, work your business and make your business valuable during this year. Just a couple things from Realty World Indy perspective. Um, I would like to have a team meeting next Thursday on the 22nd. I'll send out an email on this, but I'd like to have a team meeting on the 22nd, which is next Thursday. We would meet at the Fisher's office in the conference room, and lunch will be provided for you. And we'll have some recognition of performance last year, some sales performance from last year, and kind of go from there. So also, I had talked about the monthly fee and changing the monthly fee and changing what's offered and things of that sort. And I decided to leave well enough alone for the time being. So the monthly fee remains at $59 a month. And if you pay annually, then you'll just multiply that times 12 and go ahead and send your money in. If you pay monthly, then of course just continue what you've been doing. Um, Also, I would like to always once a year, I like to meet one-on-one with everyone and just kind of pick your brains about what's working, what's not, things that I can do to improve our brokerage and things that I need to stop doing to improve our brokerage. So I will be reaching out to you to conduct one-on-one meetings. What I do is I set aside an hour for our meetings, even though I don't need an hour. I want to make sure that you have plenty of time. I've just got a few questions that I want to ask of you. So it's an opportunity for you to talk with me one-on-one and tell me how I can help you, how I can help you grow your business, what I can do to make our brokerage better. So I'll be reaching out to you to schedule those one-on-one meetings. So that's it from the update side. Any questions that you have for me on any subject? It doesn't have to be on one of the subjects I've just talked about. It can be anything. Any questions for me? Okay, no questions. Okay. Well, like I said, I just finished my CE, and so whenever I go through CE, there's always a list of things that I want to talk about afterwards. And so I want to talk about the code of ethics, and I have a few other things if we have time, but I want to mainly focus on the code of ethics because this is the way we can get ourselves in trouble as real estate agents, and there are quite a few ways for us to get in trouble with our code of ethics. And so I just want to highlight a couple of things. So Article 1 of the Code of Ethics says when representing a buyer, seller, landlord, tenant, or other client as an agent, realtors pledge themselves to protect and promote the interests of their client. This obligation to the client is primary, but it does not relieve realtors of their obligation to treat all parties honestly. When serving a buyer, seller, landlord, tenant, or other party in a non-agency capacity, realtors remain obligated to treat all parties honestly. So just a couple of things that came up. One thing that is a violation of Article 1 is misleading a seller concerning the market value of their home. In other words, trying to buy a listing with promising a high listing price and then um, chipping away at that to get it down to a reasonable level. So you need to be careful. And when you're given market values, give market values, your best estimate of what a market value is, not an inflated value. Now, does that mean that you can't take a listing for more than the market value? You certainly can. A lot of times sellers will insist on a higher market value than you've given them. And you can do that without violating Article 1. Violation of Article 1 would be where you encourage them to overprice their property to try to buy the listing, and you know that it's not going to sell for that price. If you've already told them in your CMA and your listing presentation that you think market value is this and they want a higher market value, you can certainly promote that. You've already let them know that you think that's too much money, but who knows? Sometimes they sell for more than we think. Also, appraisals can be an issue. You know, where we're paying top dollar for houses. Understand that when you get a low appraisal, that means that either party can walk away from the deal. So the seller can walk away from that, the buyer can walk away from that. So when you get a low appraisal, either party can walk from the deal. So it's important to get with the, if you're the buyer's agent, it's important to get with the seller's agent and discuss what you can do to try to keep the deal together. Whether the seller can lower the price or the buyer can pay more out of pocket, or maybe a combination of both of those. So you have to jump in and start negotiating with when you have a low appraisal. Not presenting all offers can get you in trouble. So whenever you receive an offer, you need to present it to your seller. Now, my question is, do you, if you've got an accepted offer and you receive an offer, do you need to present that to the seller?
Yes.
Yes, Lisa said yes, and that's correct. We have to present all offers, even the offers that come in after we've got an accepted offer, even offers that are unreasonably low. We have to present all offers. Now, a thing that comes up from time to time in terms of violations of the Code of Ethics is divulging confidential information. So we want to be careful with information that we gather. And a prime example of this is, let's say you have a listing and you know that the sellers are selling the listing because of a divorce or something of that sort. And you end up, that listing ends up expiring and not selling, and they list it with somebody else. And then you get a buyer for that listing. Can you tell that buyer the information that you know about the seller, that this is a result of a divorce and they really need the money out of this property and et cetera? Can you tell them?
No.
You're no longer under a listing contract. You can't tell them. So
No.
the answer to that is no. You cannot disclose confidential information that you got. Now, if you got information outside of that, let's just say you're the buyer's agent and you find out from some source that there's a divorce involved, can you use that information?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because you haven't signed any kind of confidentiality agreement. Keep in mind that when you do a purchase agreement, there's a confidentiality as part of that. Same thing with a listing contract. Interesting thing that I heard about is divulging confidential information. Some people think that the buyer's name should be confidential. And there is a brokerage out there that they redact the buyer name on all their offers. And they put in the BLC that they're going to do that any offers that come in for their seller, they're going to redact the name so that the seller isn't basing it on the name of the person. And they're doing this to prevent any kind of violation of fair housing by the person's name, or even somebody that they might know submitting an offer and that giving them an advantage over someone that they don't know who's submitting an offer. So that's up to you guys. I have no official policy on that for the brokerage, but if you wanted to redact a buyer's name on an offer to your sellers, that's would be fine with me. Just make sure you let the agents know in the BLC that you're going to do that, so that they know that that's what's happening. Another way to violate Article 1 is to not disclose the existence of other offers. So if you have first right offers, you need to disclose that to the potential buyer and buyer's agent. So it's not okay to not disclose other offers. And violating showing instructions can be a real problem. And MIBOR has decided to really get tougher on this. And so they are issuing stiff fines for violation of the showing instructions. And in some cases, even when it's an innocent mistake, for instance, an agent scheduling a showing for Saturday, but they thought they were scheduling for Friday. So they go on Friday, their appointment's not until Saturday, and a complaint is filed against them. MIBOR is getting tough on that. So just beware of that. You want to be very careful when you're scheduling your showings that you go when they're there. I see Marco's got his hand up. Marco?
Yes. So what about what can you do when you have a listing and other agents they just don't show up? Can you put a complaint about that too?
They've scheduled a showing and they never go on it?
Yeah, they don't go in it and they don't even go or anything like that.
Well, that's a good question. That probably comes under the area of cooperation, which we're going to talk about next, because we're promising to cooperate with other brokers. I would say you might you might have a complaint there. I think the cooperating broker owes the seller cancellation of appointment if they can't make it. I mean, things come up all the time, and appointments get canceled. And if they didn't bother to cancel it in the showing service, then yeah, that could be a potential issue. So it might be something you might want to discuss with me if you're going to file a complaint like that. But I would think you might have a complaint there. Well, let's talk about Article 3 violations, which is realtors shall cooperate with other brokers except when cooperation is not in the client's best interest. The obligation to cooperate does not include the obligation to share commissions, fees, or otherwise compensate another broker. So for instance, not showing a house with zero commission offered would be an ethics violation. So unless you've already discussed that with your buyer and explained to them, hey, if there's no commission, I won't get paid, and your buyer says, hey, that's okay, don't show me those houses. But you would need to talk to your buyer about that. Okay, so making compensation part of the purchase contract is a violation of that article of cooperation. You can call or you can email to ask the broker for commission. So if there's no commission offered, you're perfectly free to call, email, text, talk to the other broker and see if you can get commission on that. If you have signed, if your buyer has signed a exclusive buyer representation form, the buyer can negotiate the commission in the purchase agreement. You cannot, but the buyer can. So just be careful there that it's not you that's trying to negotiate commission. That'll get you in trouble. Also, and by the way, there's language that you put in the purchase agreement if the buyer is negotiating the price or the commission in the purchase agreement. There's language from IAR that you need to put in there to keep yourself safe. And so use their language for that. Not disclosing the existence of dual or variable commission arrangements. Jay's advice is anytime you put a listing in, put yes for variable commission, because you never know what might come up that would cause you to vary the commission. So you're down to negotiations and the buyer's agent asks you to negotiate your commission and you decide to do that, you've now varied the commission than what was published. So at any rate, just be careful, and you might want to just say yes to that. You also can get in trouble for not disclosing to another broker if there's an accepted offer and if there are any unresolved contingencies. So you need to let them know. So you have an accepted offer on a property, and someone calls you up and says, hey, I'd like to make an offer on this property. Do you have an accepted offer? And you have to tell them, yes, I've got an accepted offer. And obviously it should be pending in the BLC. But if they ask, are there any unresolved contingencies? Well, sure, there could be. Is there finance? Have they got it clear to close yet? If they don't, then financing is an unresolved contingency. Home inspection, negotiating the home inspection is an unresolved contingency. So any contingency that might be part of the purchase agreement, if it's not been resolved, then you have to disclose that to another broker. And they may want to make a backup offer, for instance, if there's unresolved contingencies, they may want to write a backup offer on the property. So you just need to be careful in disclosing. The other thing is misrepresenting the availability of access to show or inspect a listed property. And this comes up when someone lists a property and they say no showings until Saturday at 5 o'clock, and they've listed it on Thursday. And then you find out that they in fact showed it to somebody in between, and they've now pinned the property and sold it to their own buyer. So that is a violation of the code of ethics if you can prove it. Again, sometimes that can be difficult to prove, but you want to be careful with that. If you're listing a property, then it's available for sale. Don't list it until it's available for sale. That's the safest route. That's the most ethical route. Lisa?
Yeah, I just have a question back on, if you have an accepted offer and somebody wants to put a backup offer in, do you have to tell the broker of the accepted offer that you now have a backup?
I would, yes. I absolutely would for a couple of reasons. First of all, that's going to probably solidify your primary offer more if they know that you have a backup. And when in doubt, disclose. I was taught early in my real estate career that if you ask the question, should I disclose whatever? The answer is yes. Disclose. You can never.
Yeah, is that something you need to ask your seller about, though?
Well, yes, and you should have asked that on the initial thing. Can you disclose the existence of other offers? But yeah, you should always discuss everything with your seller before you do anything.
But if the seller said no, then would that put
The
me in a
seller
bad
should
spot?
know what's going on, and then the other broker should know what's going on.
Okay.
So just disclose what you know is basically the watchword there. Then here it comes again, providing access to a listed property on terms other than those established by the owner or listing broker. This is where you might give the access to a property. Let's say it's a vacant property and you've got an investor and you just say, well, here's the code, go ahead and let yourself in and go view the house, let me know what you think. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You have to accompany your buyer in listings, and you have to take reasonable care. There was a situation cited where there was a mother and her teenage son came to see the listing, and the father was going to meet them there, and then he got lost, and so the wife said, "Well, hey, I'll go and meet you and show you where it is." And she said, "Hey, can I leave my teenage son here?" So they did. And the agent went out on the deck and was busy making phone calls and et cetera, not watching what was going on. And the teenage kid did some things in the master bedroom and master bath that were not good to do. And so that agent got in trouble for that, for not keeping care of their buyers. So you want to be aware that you can get yourself in trouble there. One story that was shared was that a buyer, unbeknownst to the showing broker, one of the buyers ate a whole plate of cookies that was set out, but they weren't necessarily set out for showings. They were just setting out, I guess, cooling or whatever. Any rate, the buyer ate the whole plate of cookies, and those cookies were for another organization. And so the seller, the buyer's agent, of course, was embarrassed over it all, and went and purchased more cookies to replace those cookies, but the seller was still irate over it. So you want to watch your buyers, and I know sometimes they divide and conquer with you, but keep your eye on them, and never, ever, never give access to a property to someone that's not a realtor. You just can't do that. If you can't go, then neither can your buyer. Also, you want to be careful too. You know, every now and then you run into a situation when you have multiple showings on properties. You'll run into a situation sometimes where someone will show up and they're waiting for their realtor, but you're ready to leave with your client. You cannot leave them in the house. So you have to explain to them, hey, I'm only authorized to show this house to my client. I'm going to have to lock the door. So sorry to have to do that, but your agent will let you in when they arrive. You can't just let them roam around the property by themselves. You were given permission to show during a certain period of time, and that's your time slot, and letting another client in there is no good. Now, if you wanted to accompany that client, you could do that as long as you're there. But your buyer's going to be following around too, so it's a good idea to just walk up the house and have them wait for their agent to show up. One thing I did find out, we've talked a lot about buyer agency agreements and the use thereof. During the session, he asked people to raise their hand if they were using the exclusive buyer agency agreement. Almost no one was using it. Only very few hands went up concerning use of the buyer agency agreement. And all of them, though, were in favor of MIBOR making it a mandatory form, or IAL, whoever, making it a mandatory form. But very few are using it. So, you know, my advice is get used to using it and get experience using it, and you can put yourself a step ahead of other agents, particularly if buyer commissions go away. You'll already be familiar with the form and how to use it, and your fellow agents will not, and they'll be dealing with it without a lot of things to help them. Let's see, I guess, the only other thing I wanted to talk about is it does specify in the purchase agreement that the buyer, or in a case of a listing agreement, your listing is to get a signed copy of the listing agreement. If you're giving them a signed copy of the listing agreement, you have to wait until after I've signed it. Then you send the copy of the listing agreement with all the signatures on it. A listing agreement is not valid unless I've signed it, unless your broker has signed it. It's not a valid contract. And you need to send them the valid contract, all the signatures on it. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to need to do that to fulfill that function of providing your seller or your buyers with complete contracts. So if they require my signature, then you need to get my signature. Otherwise, the contract itself is not valid. and you're not providing to the other party, that your client, what you've agreed to provide them. So that's it for those. Any questions on those things? Okay, like I said, I will send out email inviting you to the team meeting on the 22nd. And also on our one-on-one meetings coming up, I'll provide a way for you to schedule those with me. So hope you have a great day. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Like always, I'm always available to answer questions, help you in any way that I possibly can, including with any training that you'd like to receive on various topics. So have a great day, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jim.
Thanks, Jim.